Hi everybody, it's me, Deep Bumble. In 2025, I decided that I wanted to read more books because oh boy, do I love books. And this year I found a whole bunch of books that I really loved and a whole bunch of books that I didn't, but that's a separate list. And originally I was like, wouldn't it be so fun to put them all into a list because I really love making lists. But then I realized that I had gone past my goal of reading 20 books in 2025 when I got to 40, and I looked at that list and I thought, nope. So instead, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna share with you 10 favorite reads from this year. Sometime in the future, I'll do a second list of my least favorite, because I think that would be kind of funny. Please keep in mind that this is my opinion and that I read as an enjoyer of books, not as a critic. So it's not that serious, everybody calm down. I did give myself a few rules for this list, and here they are. 1, this has to be the first time that I've read this book. No rereads. Every single time I did something like this, Uzumaki would be at the very top. And that's just not very fair. 2, for this list, I'm only doing fiction books just because I found it's hard to rate fiction and non-fiction against each other. 3, I have to have finished my book by my cutoff date, which was December 30th. So sorry to Fantastic Land, but you're gonna have to wait until next year. Side note though, Fantastic Land's really fantastic and I really love it. Okay, thanks. Also, just to clarify, these are books that I've read in 2025, but they don't necessarily have to have come out in 25. Most of them did not. Okay, that's it. Let's go! I apologize for this one. Starting out strong, Cass. Wow. Y'all will have to give me a little bit of a break. I know that people either really loved this book or they really hated it. We're gonna get really crazy right off the bat and go with I really loved it, excluding a few chapters at the beginning that were really terrible. I do guess that it is a guilty pleasure in that way. Just don't leave. I promise my other choices make more sense. And that book is Playground by Aaron Beauregard. I said his name wrong. Playground by Aaron Beauregard. This book is from a subgenre of horror called splatterpunk. For those of you that don't know, that subgenre is basically trying to push everything to the limits as far as possible. So it's often shocking and gruesome for the sake of being shocking and gruesome. I'm new to this subgenre myself, and let me tell you, I do not like it very much. But with these books, for me, it's not usually the content, and this is just my opinion based on the ones I've read so far, but for me, I find that most of these books that I've read are written very horrendously. It's irritating and juvenile characters that have no character and no plot structure, you know, just all those things that you really like in a book, take them and throw them out the window. They don't seem to apply to splatterpunk. Instead, you replace them with shock value. You'd be surprised that it gets very boring very fast. I'll for sure be talking more about this subgenre and why it's been such a miss for me so far when I talk about my least favorite books. I really gave it a try this year. But this book right here is the only splatterpunk book that I have ever liked, besides a few chapters at the beginning. If you've read it, you know which ones I'm talking about. Those are clearly just there to get people on social media talking about, oh my god, it's the worst and most disgusting thing I've ever read in my life, oh no! They have no bearing on the actual plot, and you could cut them out entirely, and in my opinion, if he did, the book would actually be a lot stronger and a lot better. But looking past all of that, man, I love this book. I don't think I'm selling this one very well. And I know that I am 100% biased because one of my favorite types of horror is theme park and playground horror, which is why I can't wait to talk about Fantastic Land when I finish it. I eat that up. Delicious. And in this book, you have a group of kids that's invited to test out a new playground. In exchange, the people who built it are going to give their families a whole bunch of money. They go thinking, surely this will be a regular playground, but it's not. It's bad. In the underground playground, every single room is deadly. The kids have to get through a series of games or some sort of obstacle before progressing to the next room to hopefully make it out alive. Think like Squid Game mixed with Saw mixed with those really weird games we used to play on the playground at recess. It was wild. I actually had my jaw drop a couple times and my heart speed up, and that doesn't usually happen to me. Each of the kids has a distinct personality, and this is what I think sets it apart for me from other splatterpunk books, is that I actually cared what happened to these characters. I was actually attached to some of them and was upset when some of them died. It is descriptive, it's visceral, it's terrifying, it's creative in the most horrible kind of way, and I loved it. It also has some really great illustrations in it. Careful though, they are gruesome. Read it with caution, read it knowing that some of the beginning chapters are just bad shock. And if somebody tells you which chapters to skip in order for you to enjoy it more, you should probably listen to them. And next up we have The Long Walk by some guy named Richard Bachman. This is another one that I think I have a bias on because I did go see the movie first and I fell in love with the characters, specifically Pete and Ray and their tragic and beautiful relationship. So as soon as I got home, I knew I have to read this book, and I did really enjoy it. So the book is a little bit different from the movie. In the book, you have 100 kids that have signed up for a competition to the death in a post-war world where resources and money are extremely scarce. They all have to walk at least 4 miles per hour without stopping, each person getting 3 warnings before they buy their ticket. This goes on until there's only one boy left standing, and then he is set for life. And it all takes place on this really long stretch of road through conversations between these boys as they are developing relationships that they all know can't last because soon all but one of them will be dead. It has this beautifully dark theme of trying to make the most out of the brief human connections that we get, and asks the question, even if we all die, isn't it more bearable to walk with someone for a while?
What, walk me a while?
Yeah, I do, Pete.
Now, the only thing that keeps this book from being higher on the list is that it has some really weirdly timed scenes that really threw me. Ray, you just saw one of the walkers get shot and everything's terrible and people are screaming and you are realizing the severity of your situation. What's going through your mind? I looked into the crowd and saw up a lady's skirt. So I'm good, actually. Get it together, Ray. Or how about multiple characters running off the path, risking death to get it on with some random girl? For me, that would really mess with the tension and atmosphere that he was building. I'm a big fan of Stephen King's books, but he has this issue of adding stuff like this at just the weirdest times, especially in the older books. But overall, I love this story a lot, and the movie is one of the most bleak and harrowing things I've ever seen in my life. Watch it if you want to cry. Number 8 is The Monkey's Paw by W.W. Jacobs. Now I know what some of you are thinking. Gee, Bumble, The Monkey's Paw is technically a short story and not a novel, so it shouldn't even be considered on this list. Get it together. And you would be right. But this is my list and I can do what I want, and I say that number 8 is The Monkey's Paw. This is a story that I had known about and heard different versions of a lot of times, but I had never actually read the original until this year, and oh man, I loved it. Do be prepared if you read it that some of it has not aged well. It is from 1902. This story is one of the first, if not the first, I actually don't know a lot about that, please don't quote me on that, to feature the themes of someone getting exactly what they wanted in the most horrific way possible, which I am a fan of, as well as sometimes dead is better, which is most well known for being a huge plot point in Stephen King's Pet Sematary. In this story, a family of 3 is gifted a severed monkey's paw from their friend who found it during his travels. He warns them that this thing is dangerous, it's evil, don't mess with it, yada yada, who cares, because this bad boy can grant wishes. And because he's such a great friend who is wonderful at communicating, he decides to not tell them what exactly could happen if they use it and leaves it with them because they probably wouldn't even try to use it, right? But they do. And the consequences are devastating. The eerie vibes in the story still hold up. I got chills when the first wish was granted. And it's not even very long, so just go read it for your own self. War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells has stood the test of time for a reason, my god. Like probably a lot of you, I had heard the very famous story of the War of the Worlds broadcast in 1938 that caused widespread panic because the people listening thought that it was actually happening. Hell, even Arthur talks about it in season 10, episode 5, DW Aims High.
A man named Orson Welles did a radio broadcast of the storm. A lot of people heard it and thought it was really happening.
They're here!
But like The Monkey's Paw, I had never actually read the original before. In it, these Martians, called tripods, come down to Earth and start feeding off of the delicious life force of humans while also just causing general terror and destruction. It's not a good situation to be in. During all of this, the protagonist is trying to find his wife in all the carnage while trying to survive. Uh-oh, here comes a mild early on spoiler for a book that came out 127 years ago. The buildup of people trying to figure out what's going on, followed by that first heat ray going off, incinerating everyone in its path. Terrifying. The imagery is so amazing and so vivid. I actually didn't read this one. I listened to it on audiobook while I was doing some art stuff. While I was listening, I began to understand more how so many people thought it was actually happening just based off of how it's written and how it's described. Especially in the beginning when they are talking about these unidentified fallen stars that have crashed. If I heard some of these descriptions in 1938, I would be a little bit nervous too, I must say. This one actually did come out in 2025. The Poorly Made and Other Things by Sam Rebeline is one of the best short story collections I have ever read. Besides theme park horror, one of my other favorite kinds of horror is body horror. I love it, and this book does it so well. So well that a few times I had to actually take a break to process what I had just read. All the stories in this book are loosely connected by a cursed town that had a terrible murder take place in one of its barns years and years ago. After this, people of course wanted to profit off of it. So items from the house and the blood-stained wood from the barn was stolen, sold, collected, crafted into other things, and anywhere these items went, a terrible, impossible madness came with it. Reality became warped and people became bloodthirsty. And in between each story, there are chapters that connect it all together by having us read emails from a character who is trying to investigate and piece all of these events together and figure out if it could possibly have something to do with her mom's death. It's one of those books that I just never wanted to be over because I just loved it so much. I wanted more stories from this world. My favorite story in it by far is called Red X. I don't want to say too much about it because I don't want to spoil it, but the descriptions in it are so visceral and so unsettling, and it does that thing that I really love in horror where it asks what is real and what is not real, and does it even really matter? Or is it just your perception of reality and leftover trauma that matters in the end, regardless of what actually happened? Up next is yet another story that I knew a lot about, had heard retellings of, but had never actually read the original from start to finish. The Picture of Dorian Gray is phenomenal. This book follows a young and incredibly beautiful man named Dorian after having his portrait painted by an artist who is completely obsessed with him named Basil. The only problem is that when Dorian sees this portrait, he becomes so incredibly jealous of it, the fact that it will stay beautiful forever and stay exactly as it is while he's doomed to age like a regular human. So he makes the wish to the universe that, oh, I just wish that the painting could absorb all the years, all the aging, all my sins, everything, and I could just stay beautiful and perfect forever. As he goes through his life, heavily influenced into an existence of debauchery, sin, cynicism by their friend Lord Henry, who is a menace, Dorian notices that the painting of him seems changed. It somehow seems older and more sinister than it did before. As he realizes what this means, he deals with wanting to take advantage of this, to live life however he wants, do what he wants, be reckless with people's feelings and with people's lives, while also going into the despair of looking the ugliness of his soul right in the face. It is beautifully written, and it is both eerie and classy in vibe, and I totally think that Dorian and Basil like each other. This one had me right from the concept. Whale Fall by Daniel Kraus is about a man who goes scuba diving in search for his dead father's remains, only to be accidentally swallowed by a sperm whale. I know. The book takes place, if I remember correctly, in the span of about 1 hour because that is all the oxygen he has. The chapters go back and forth between him trying to figure out, how do I get out of this whale? and flashbacks that dive into this strained relationship with his father. And the whale chapters start by telling us how much oxygen is left in his tank. So as you read the book, you get to see his oxygen levels slowly go down each chapter. The lessons that he's learned from his dad in his past and this disembodied voice of his dad aid him in his attempt of survival. It's a very surprising mix of moments that are very gruesome and make you kind of make this face, and and moments that are really heartbreaking and bittersweet. I went into this one not knowing what to expect. I mean, besides the part about a man getting eaten by a whale. And I was just blown away with how beautiful it ended up being, with its main themes being of reconciliation, regret, and just desperately trying to understand your loved ones. Wanting to balance being grateful for learning something from someone while also holding space for trauma that that person has provided you. This one also has a movie adaptation coming out, I hear, in October of 2026. I just know that whale swimming out of the darkness is going to be horrifying to look at. I really hope that they do the tone of the book justice, because it really is just indescribable. This book is one of the most distressing things I've ever read. This is Haunted by Chuck Palahniuk. I never knew what was going to happen next. It is absolutely insane. This book, in the same way as The Poorly Made and Other Things, is a collection of short stories that's connected by a general story about every other chapter. The main story involves a group of people who think that they are being invited to go to a normal writer's retreat. Big surprise, it's not normal. They become trapped there with no contact with the outside world and very limited supplies. But there is something super unique about this premise. Secretly, none of them want to be rescued. At least, not yet. Not until things have gotten as bad as they can possibly get. Because what's better for publicity and fame than surviving the worst conditions imaginable? So begins the self-sabotage as each character tries to make things worse for all of them. Everyone is trying to one-up each other's suffering because they know that eventually, when they do make it out, the media is going to focus on the person who had it the worst. And then you'll be able to sell anything you write. So, for example, what is more sensational than someone who made it out of this situation missing a toe? Someone who made it out missing all their toes. And that's just the kind of thing that they kind of try to keep one-upping each other throughout the connecting stories. It's an amazing take on publicity and the people that profit off of sensationalizing horrific events. And those chapters that tie all the stories together were by far my favorite part of this book. But the individual short stories are also really wild. Each person in the writer's retreat gets their chance to tell their story, and each one is disturbing, distressing, gruesome, shocking. I would strongly suggest that you check the trigger warnings before reading this one. This is also the book that features the short story Guts, which is how a lot of people, myself included, found out about this book. I am not going to describe it here because it is very gruesome and my mom might watch this and she wouldn't like it. But you may have heard about it when Chuck Palahniuk, who is also the author of Fight Club, by the way, went on a book tour and read this to some of his audiences. He reportedly had several people in the audience pass out whenever he would read this story, so it became kind of infamous for that. And while I didn't pass out, it did make me make this face several times. Also, I thought I should mention that some people consider this book splatterpunk or extreme horror, but like a lot of other people don't. So I wasn't really sure whether to include it in my whole thing earlier about I've only liked one splatterpunk book ever. I didn't know whether or not to include it. Just thought that was worth mentioning for some reason. I don't know. Okay, so this one and my number one spot were super close and they kept going like back and forth until I told myself, dude, Bumble, it's not that serious, just pick one. So I did. So for this spot, I have The Swarm by Andy Marino. Quick fun fact, this book's also the longest one that I read this year at 500 pages. I stumbled upon this book at the library after reading another book called The Swarm by Arthur Herzog III, which actually ended up being kind of terrible, and I thought to myself, I wonder if this swarm is any better. And oh boy was it. This book is about hundreds of thousands of cicadas waking up from their sleep and creating a swarm over the town. And while people think at first that these are normal cicadas, guess what? They're not. These cicadas want nothing more than to get inside a human host, sending them into a catatonic state for an unknown reason. Well, I mean, I know the reason, but I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to ruin the super fun surprise. The town quickly falls into absolute panic as the skies go dark with cicadas, and they are doing everything they can to get into buildings where people are hiding. You get a few different perspectives in this one. A detective who is trying to save her daughter, and a pair of private investigators who stumbled upon a strange ritual that happened right before the cicadas woke up. This book had my skin crawling, and I even gasped in a few places. Like this, there's body horror in there, which is awesome, and it made me genuinely terrified of cicadas. So that's cool. And for my #1 spot of 2025, I have Incidents Around the House by Josh Malerman. There's just something about this book that really captivated me. I love the way that it's told from the perspective of a small child. I love that it ties family trauma to supernatural elements. I love the imagery. I love the way it's written. I love it all. In the story, a young girl is describing her living with a strange entity in her closet named Other Mommy, who comes out every night and asks her, "Can I go inside your heart?" The girl always refuses, but Other Mommy is getting trickier, more persuasive, and more desperate. And the little girl is convinced that Other Mommy is her friend, or she's at least supposed to be. As this family of 3 tries to hold itself together in the midst of this little girl's wild stories, they are forced to confront things that they have tried so hard to keep hidden. This is one of the books that I've been thinking I'm already gonna reread for next year because it was just that good. It's also one of the only books I've read that has jump scared me, which is really weird for books, but my heart literally leapt when I read this one part. It was very strange. Just in case you're curious, the other book to jump scare me was the novella Rat by Stephen King, found in the book of stories If It Bleeds. There's this one line towards the end that really got me. Also, Incidents Around the House is getting a movie adaptation next year in October of 2026 called Other Mommy. That is going to be quite the eventful month with both that and Whalefall coming out. I'm pumped! So that's all I've got for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching my video and for listening to my opinion on these freaky books. Go read them! If you liked this video, you are more than welcome to subscribe and keep an eye out for my video on the top 10 least favorite books of 2025. That one's gonna have all the books that pissed me off. So that should be fun. Thanks again. I hope you guys have a really wonderful new year full of books that you genuinely love. And I will see you again soon. Take care and Godspeed! I forgot the plot of the book. Why am I sitting like that? Doopy. Why can't I do this one? What am I talking about?